today's Moving Forward video. I am Jo and I'm today joined by Kat, who is our children and youth worker here at Hope Church. The Moving Forward series is a group of videos where we are setting forward our outline and our vision for the church, and we are looking at how we are going to be moving forward and unfolding our vision during this time. Now, I don't know about you, but when lockdown was announced, there was a sense of panic about toilet rolls, panic about your groceries, panic about stocking up, but also for me as a mum, panicking about how I was going to keep my children occupied. What was I going to do with them? How was I going to entertain them? And how were they going to keep in contact with their friends? So there was this big sense of panic everywhere. Kat, how did you feel when lockdown was announced?
Yeah, so I think we all experienced that same sense of panic and what are we going to do? And we didn't know how long at that point any of this was going to go on for. So the first things that kind of came to my mind were actually how are we going to be able to show the children that we work with that we still love and care for them in this time, and how are we going to help them to connect with each other, and actually how are we going to carry on teaching them in lockdown.
Yeah, definitely. And as a parent, it was really important to know that they were still connecting with church and with their friends. So you have lots of different groups going on at Hope. So how did you think about connecting with all of those different people?
Yeah, so across all of the groups we do, from Sunday morning activities through to midweek groups to kind of youth Bible study, we work with around 90 children and young people. And so one of the first things I wanted to do was to just show those young people that we still cared for them. We just could not run their groups as normal. We just couldn't connect with them like we had been doing. And so one of the first things we did was just write each of them a personal letter to show them that we still cared for them. Sent them a little Bible verse and a few little goodies for the younger children. They kind of got stickers, and the older children got hot chocolates and things. And just to keep that connection there, because we weren't able to meet face to face. And that was for kind of everybody. But then there was also kind of this teaching element and connectivity. So we quite quickly decided that we were going to do Zoom groups for the children and the young people. And the youth, our oldest youth, really got into these really well. They had a thriving Bible study as a result of it. They really worked well. And then with the children's ones, we wanted something to discuss with those. So we didn't want it to be just kind of come and have a chat, but we wanted to actually build some teaching into that time. So one of the things that I then set out to do was to find some kind of teaching resource that we could send out to families, so the children could receive some teaching and then they could discuss it in their groups. And this wasn't very easy, so I sat down very early on in lockdown and started looking through different resources that were available. And I watched so many different videos, and I found actually a lot of them I found quite boring, and I found I was getting a little bit bored by them. And I thought, this isn't good enough. We can't use these, the kids just won't engage with them. And then I remembered, actually prior to lockdown, we'd been looking at exploring a new resource. So I thought I'll just have a look and see if they're doing anything at the moment. And actually, Orange, which is the resource that we've then carried on using, were producing and making all of their content available for free, and it was brilliant. And I watched the first few videos and I thought, these are really engaging, these will work.
Orange, you say. So tell me more about Orange. What is Orange and why Orange?
Yes, so it's a bit of a strange name for a children's and youth resource, but it's all about this idea that they kind of show that red represents the home and love and family, and yellow represents the church and light. And if you kind of bring those two things together, you get the colour orange. And the idea behind all of the resources that they produce is to enable families and the church to work together, because the impact that parents have on their children's faith is massive. And I think many parents will know that sometimes maybe children come out of their church clubs and they'll ask, what have you been doing? And the children will,
I've had 3 biscuits today.
yeah, that's it. So this really enables parents to know what's going on, what their kids are learning, and to build on that throughout the week so that their faith feels like a whole life thing and not just Sunday mornings and kind of separated. And one of the things as well that was great with the videos was that actually the teaching quality, it didn't feel any different from what we would usually have on a Sunday morning. The teaching fitted really well with what I would normally expect our kind of volunteers to be teaching the children in their groups.
That sounds amazing. So Orange has come from something called the Further Faster Network, which Derek has mentioned in previous weeks. And the Further Faster Network is an organisation that produces some really high quality clips and videos and obviously resources to make your services more engaging. So it's something that we're going to be using as a church. We've really been thinking about it and how to really invest in that wisely. So we're going to be using that from September. And Kat, tell us how you see that you are going to be using that in the future.
Yeah, so obviously at the moment, the Orange resources have just now, they've had their free availability, and at the moment they're no longer free. So we've had to decide, actually we're going to commit, we think this is really worthwhile, and from September we are going to fully be committed to using this resource, because we think it's totally worth the kind of cost that we have to pay for it. It's such a good resource, and we think that actually whether we are in lockdown, whether we are able to meet groups face to face, or whether we're having to do something more remote, these resources will work for any of those settings, and it means that we can transition really easily with the slightly uncertain future over the next few months of what we're able to do. Actually, we can still provide really consistent, really high quality teaching for children and resources for parents. So especially at this time when perhaps parents are doing more of the teaching than they would be if we had kind of church back on and we're all meeting in the building. Actually, there's loads of resources there to equip parents so that they're not having to think of like really creative ideas. They can actually just look at some of the stuff that Orange produce. And so hopefully it will support parents. It will also support volunteers. So when we're back to a point where we've got volunteers running groups, they can really focus much more on the relationship side of things, because they're not having to spend hours and hours planning sessions or worrying have they conveyed a message, because the Orange materials are really helpful in doing that.
That sounds amazing, and I think it's something that we can get really excited about as a church, that we are investing in this resource, that we're investing in our young people, and that we are going to be able to help with this resource and with our volunteers, and with your financial support, we are going to really be able to see our young people grow, regardless of whether they're in a church building, but wherever they are and wherever they're going to be able to meet. As a parent though, Kat, you said it's going to help me. So can you tell me a bit more of how it's going to help me?
Yeah, so as well as the main sessions and the videos that they produce, they also do 3 things that I think are really great for parents. One is children's devotionals, so things that fit in line with what the children have learned on a Sunday morning. They then provide, you can just download and print these, or you can kind of like have it on your computer and the kids can have a look through, maybe on an iPad or something, and there's actually devotionals for children specifically designed for their age groups that build on that. There are activities that you could do together as a family, and I think probably one of the easiest, most simple things that they do is there is an app that runs alongside the teaching resources, so parents can just quickly flick on their phone and they can see the video that their children have watched, so you can get a bit of an idea. It prompts with the kind of key learning point that they had that week, maybe a Bible verse that they're trying to learn in their group, and maybe an idea. So I think one of the ones for this week is to write little messages of encouragement to your child on their kind of mirror, so they see that each morning because they're thinking about how they're created. So just little ideas to actually bring faith into the home more naturally.
That sounds amazing, and it sounds just so exciting, because I know that as a family we really want to know what our children are doing in church, but just finding out how many biscuits they've had today and how many more they're allowed after church is sometimes all that we get. So I want to thank you as a church for the support, the continued support that you've been giving us, because that has allowed us to invest in this resource. allowed us to just really take our services to another level and to really, really invest in our young people. And as we were thinking about today's Moving Forward series, the verse from Romans came to mind, which I'm just going to read to you now. And it's from Romans 10, verse 14 to 15. How then can they call on one that they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one of whom they have not even heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? And how can anyone preach unless they are sent? And I just want to thank Kat for everything she's done over lockdown. In fact, I want to ask you one more question because I know something else that we haven't mentioned yet. But because without somebody telling our children and telling the children of Oswestry, they will not hear about the good news. So the fact that we're investing that, and we will continue to invest, and I want to thank you again for your support. We can provide so much more for those young people. Tell us though about the art competition and the treasure hunt.
Yes, so lockdown has given us a lot of time kind of thinking on our feet and experimenting with different ideas. So very early on, one of the things that we did to kind of, particularly for Fun Club kids and children in the community, we put up an art competition, and in the first few weeks that was really popular and we had lots of entries, and it was a great way of children kind of seeing that the others' children were still there and doing stuff. And I know from some of our Zoom group conversations as well, the children could kind of comment and be like, oh, I thought so-and-so's artwork was really good this week. So there was a nice conversation there. But as time went on, and I think some of the rules were lifted and people were able to go out a little bit more, we felt that actually wasn't right to carry that on. So we stopped that and tried something else. And one of the things we set up was treasure hunt. And that was so popular. It's definitely in this season we don't necessarily know if the things that we do are going to work because we've never done this before. But it was great. We had so many families kind of messaging us as well to say thank you and that they'd really enjoyed it. And it was just nice in a time when I know there'd been so many limits on what people can do, to be able to just enable families to go out in the community. And as well, at the very end of that treasure hunt, we had some Bible verses, and I kind of thought people might not take them. You know, it's an option, there's a prize and there's a Bible verse, and you can take one or you can take both. And we ran out of Bible verses, we had to top them up, which was just so encouraging to think that actually that word had got out into the community, even though we're not able to do things as normal.
Yeah, definitely. And they've been saying throughout this time, haven't they, that the church doors might be closed, but the church definitely isn't closed, and we've been doing so much. So, Kat, thank you for everything that you've been doing during this lockdown time, because I know you've been working so hard. As a mum, I massively appreciated it. My kids definitely appreciated it. They loved meeting up with their friends on Zoom every week, and they loved watching the videos and all the resources that you were putting out there, and the treasure hunt was also fab. So thank you, and thank you, Church, Hope Church, for your continued support and your investment in the work that we're doing. And thank you for joining us today. See you soon.